Afghanistan, Libya, take the oil companies, the tax cuts for all Americans, the biggest point you can, it's 3 hours.
The part I left out quite frankly, was deregulation of almost every industry in the country that led to the economic collapse of 2008. All those things combined, quite frankly, sir, we would have a balanced budget now. We would owe nothing whatsoever. But what's happened because the tax breaks, for instance, we've had the biggest transfer of wealth from the middle class to the upper 1% of this country that we've ever had in our history. The problem with that is, I can appreciate you don't like taxes. The problem with that is, eventually it reaches a point in our society when it gets to about 50%, is concentrated in that 1% of society, that's when we have revolutions. My children, I'm very concerned for my children. I have 6 children, 1 grandchild. I put all of them through college. Every one of them have gone through college. And the reason I did so is because I told them if they worked hard and they did well, that they could accomplish anything. But what we're doing, quite frankly, is by all this never raising taxes, never making people responsible for what they did. These wars weren't mine. These wars weren't my children. Okay? The tax cuts weren't my children's. All right? I'm perfectly willing, and I think everybody in this country should be willing to pay for this. Those wars were not paid for. The tax cuts were not paid for. They were due to expire in 2008. If they weren't paid for, they weren't paid for. There's been all kinds of bullshit about all that, and that's quite frankly, that's what it is. We know how to straighten this country out. We know how to straighten it out.
Why don't you make it
I hate to interrupt you, because in order to be fair to everybody,
I'm good talking all the time. I'm excited, and I do appreciate it.
Hey, you know what? You have very, very good points, and your concern, I think, is representative of so many of us. You're not alone, sir. Yeah. And I hope you'll not leave. I hope you'll sit there and listen to the rest of us, because we've all got
concerns.
concerns.
Have been moving in, so I imagine it was because of me.
No, because they wanted to see what the
next question.
Yeah. Next one said, how long will the SGR, the Sustainable Growth Rate Formula, threaten doctors with drastic cuts to Medicare reimbursements? Why can't Congress repeal this legislation?
We can. And we're in the process of doing that right now. We've got 2 pieces of legislation to correct the sustainable growth rate. Because right now, otherwise doctors are facing a 30% reduction in the reimbursement starting in December. That's not acceptable. We can't do that term. But that's part of the uncertainty. It's just been hanging. It's been passed on for year in, year out. We've got to come to a resolution. And we've got a bill in the House that is there to be able to correct this problem. So we've got the bill. We've just got to get the votes. But we have been hung up on a variety of issues, and we're working our way through. We're going to get I really think that it's going to pass. It's going to be part of the health care reform package that we're going to come back out with. Next question.
Next question. This is a 3-part. There are a lot of Democrats attracted to the message of Ron Paul. Limited government, an end to foreign empire building, liberty and personal responsibility, free enterprise, capitalism, and not corporation. I can't read that word. Do you endorse Ron Paul in his philosophies, his points?
Oh, I like Ron Paul. He's a friend of mine. I've sat with him a number of times on the floor, and just to get to know the person, to understand. He's a solid individual. I've had opportunities to do the same thing with Michelle Bachmann, just to talk to him. These are people. They're not. This perception that a lot of people that they're trying to hurt America, trying to hurt our air, trying to hurt. They're not. They're trying to find a balance, because we're trying to create jobs. I'm struggle when we have 14 million people out of work. I've got to find a balance, and so for what he's doing as a libertarian approach with it, that's fine. Let the people decide. That's what the primary process is all about. I don't know who I'm supporting yet. I don't know about you. Maybe you all made your mind up. I haven't. I'm still listening to the discussion to see what happens with Rick Perry getting the race. I think Giuliani's still out there saying he wants to get in the race. Let's just keep an open mind and try to listen to the debate, but listen to the facts. Listen to the facts of where we go with this. Yes, ma'am.
I heard Donald Trump's still thinking.
Donald Trump may get back in.
Okay, these foreign entanglements and wars are bankrupting our nation. What can you do to rein in the unnecessary wars we seem determined to start with little or no justification?
That is a good point. We voted earlier this year to stop the thing in Libya. Couldn't get the Senate. Couldn't get those things passed. It takes two bodies. You have to understand. I don't want to blame the Senate. They've got their own objectives. That's when you have divided government. We have divided government. That's when it requires a role of the president to step up. But I got to tell you, sometimes he's AWOL. We look for that kind of leadership. I want to see him involved, especially when it comes to these wars. But we voted in Congress to stop that. We've challenged it on the Constitution because Congress has to make that approval. And I want to do that. So we voted that way, but we haven't been successful with it yet. We're going to keep doing it. But it's an oddity, and quite frankly, I don't quite understand why, but there is some logic to it, I think. The wars are not in the budget. All the spending for all this Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya are not part of the budget. It's off budget financing. So we have 1.6 trillion, then add the wars into it. Add that to it. Yes, ma'am.
This is a more local question. Do you approve of the use of federal funds for the purpose of destroying 3 valued dams on the West Fork River south of Clarksburg? Can you do anything to stop this project? Will you help us save the dams for fishing, recreation, and agriculture? Can you cut off funding for this sort of foolish waste of money? From a gentleman in Law School.
Whoever asked a question, please inform us. I've got our staff here. This is the mayor and I have met before, and she was very helpful. We're looking at things like here in this area. We're looking at the water line that was on Chestnut.
Chestnut Street, absolutely.
We're looking at that. We're trying to figure out how we can get some funding. So but some of these other matters, they're a local issue. I don't have all the facts yet. I'm sorry. I wish I could say I knew all the issues in all 20 counties. I don't. But I'm here to listen. Tell me what it is. Get with our staff. Let's find out what it is and see where we go with that. I just don't know I don't know the facts with it associated with it. So I don't want to say yes, we'll protect it or not. I don't have the facts yet.
Okay. Are you concerned about the low approval rate which the people of the United States give to Congress? And to what do you attribute this low approval rate? And how do you and other members of Congress, what do you plan to do to improve the public's opinion of Congress's performance?
I think if I had that, we'd have the whole thing solved, wouldn't we? No, there is no good answer on that. I'm disappointed that I think it's 13% or something like that, or 18%, but it's horrible. It's horrible. I think it's part of it because of the bickering that goes on. I don't want to, that's not productive. That's not how I run my business. We deal with people that are disagreeable sometimes, but we got to listen to them. They have their opinion. And what we've just gone through was a very difficult issue of raising the debt ceiling. Because many of us, quite frankly, didn't want to do it. I want to reduce the spending. I don't want to increase the debts. But keep in mind, when we raised that ceiling, we didn't increase spending. All we did was say we were going to pay the bills that the previous Congresses had cost. We had to pay for them. It's like sometimes if you gave your child, and I've done it more than one time, give them a credit card to go out with, and then they come back and they say, well, I'm not going to pay for that meal that they went out and charged a big meal. I'm going to say, well, I don't want that, so I'm not paying for it. That's not how America works. You pay for the meal, but then you take away the credit card. You had it, you're going to cut it up. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to catch up with all the spending that took place up till now. And we're going to very gradually, over 10 years, try to get it back under control. It's going to be painful. There are going to be a lot of very difficult votes. But we passed one out of the House. I thought it made the most sense. It was called Cut, Cap, and Balance. What a great thing, the way to put that together. That cut the spending, we got that. That cap the spending by gradually getting it back down. not overnight. We all know what would happen if we had it overnight. We can't, but it was gradually, over a period of years, 10 years, get it back to what the average spending was on a percentage of the GDP, the economy of the country. Just gradually take it back down to where the economy was for the last 20 years. Okay? And then a balanced budget amendment. I got to tell you, folks, I'm a balanced budget guy. I want to see us get back to the balanced budget. But I can also see in Washington, what I've learned so far, is that there's not enough appetite right now for that. The idea of spending money is very attractive. It gets people reelected. I'm not there for a career. I've had a career. I would love to return to my career at one time. But in the meantime, I want to get this thing corrected at the federal level to the extent that we can with a balanced budget. We can get there, but I'm afraid we're going to have some fiscal discipline, and we're not seeing it right now with the Congress that we have. And listen, I'm not saying by any stretch, I'll tell you right now, this is not a Democrat issue, and it's not a Republican. It's Congress in general has lost touch. So the percentages of where they are, not surprising.